Welcome into Off the Hook Sports. I am your host, Caleb Calhoun. We got a lot to get to today. We've got Tennessee having open fall camp. We're going to talk about some of the things we found out there. Guys, I'm sorry. Bear with me real quick. My headphones came loose from the laptop just as I was starting the show. So just give me 1 second here. Amateur hour here on Off the Hook Sports. Sorry about that. We've got a lot to get to today. We've got the coverage of Tennessee at fall camp. We're going to talk about some things that we're revealing based on things that have been said and what we've learned about the practices. We're going to talk about that to start the show. More postseason awards are out. More postseason watch lists are out. Arian Carter and Jamal McCoy are both on postseason watch lists. We're going to talk about that. A little bank on it. Peyton Manning has opened up about his Heisman loss, which he never has done before. And we're going to play 4 downs on that. Kind of interesting on what he said. And Notre Dame is not for the Big Ten college football playoff model. Not too surprising, but we're going to dive into that. So hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on your notifications, tell a friend. We broadcast to you live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used. East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. The show is represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. Let's get rolling with today's tough question, and it is this. Is Tennessee football more player-led this year than years past? We've talked about Tennessee in the Leadership Council and what they did with the whole Boo Carter situation, which I think still doesn't get enough praise and credit for how that was handled. I think that's a really big deal, and we're going to talk a little bit about what Boo Carter was doing at practice later in the show. But Tennessee clearly, with that, has players taking more initiative than we've seen in a while. And there was an interesting comment, I want to say, by Dominic Bailey on Tuesday that I didn't get to, where basically they talk about how the players got closer in this past offseason across all position groups after they lost to Ohio State in the college football playoff. Bailey said, quote, "We kind of put an emphasis on that connectivity this year so we can come together more as a team. Honestly, for us, it's because after what happened in the playoffs, we're just trying to find ways to come together as a team. Because last year, sometimes things were shaky amongst the football team, so we're just trying to make it more of a brotherhood this year." Now, I'm not real big on the whole culture thing all the time and whether or not that's a big deal, but I will say it can outweigh talent if you're really, really close. And I bring this up all the time, but the 1998 national title team, that's not the most talented team Philip Fulmer ever had. That was the most close-knit team that Philip Fulmer ever had. And that really stands out. As far as this team, Dominic Bailey is talking about how they grew closer after that loss. Well, then what happened in the spring? There was the humiliation of Nico Iamaleava skipping practice and bailing on the team and going to UCLA, whether or not it was him or his dad. It doesn't matter. I'm sure that drew the team even closer together. And remember this, Nico Iamaleava had been negotiating with the coaching staff, whether it be NIL, whether it be a style of play or whatever, he had been negotiating with them since the start of January. And that had been all out and probably rubbing many teammates the wrong way, particularly with all the money he was making. So taking that all into account, I do believe this team is much closer this year. And I believe as a result, they are player-led. Will that bode well for them as the year goes on? Well, here's the one issue with this team being player-led. It's not a veteran team. Now, that doesn't always necessarily matter, but a lot of the leaders are underclassmen. That's why Arian Carter accompanied Tennessee to SEC Media Days this year. And there could have been seniors that did that, and there were not. Taking that into account, you have to wonder, are they player-led, but led by guys Josh Heupel signed out of high school who are underclassmen who aren't really supposed to be the focal point of this team this year? Is that a good thing for the team going forward in the future? It could be. Who knows? But I would say overall, this team is player-led. This team is very close. And that could outweigh a lot of other things. Because, look, their schedule this year, while I still maintain is relatively easy, and based on all metrics, it's much easier than a lot of other SEC schedules. It's harder than last year, and it's harder than last year for a couple of reasons. They already lost to Georgia last year. They do get Georgia at home, but it's early in the season, and they're going to have Georgia early in the season while they're trying to break in a new quarterback. Yes, Georgia is too, but also while their best defensive back, their best player, arguably Jamal McCoy, is not going to be fully healthy. That's a big problem. That's a big concern. Meanwhile, they go to Alabama, they go to Florida. They haven't won at either of those places since 2003. And that year, neither Alabama nor Florida finished in the top 25, by the way. I want to point that out. And so with that in mind, you can very well see 3 losses on the schedule, and we're still not sure if they have an upset loss somewhere down the road. Could it be Syracuse in the Neubert? Could it be at Mississippi State? Could it be at Kentucky? Obviously, last year it was at Arkansas. So I think the schedule is slightly tougher this year because of Alabama and Florida being on the road and Georgia being early in the season. Taking that into account, I think we have to be honest with ourselves and say that the best chance Tennessee has, particularly now with the change at quarterback, is to have a close-knit group and have a level of chemistry that outweighs other things. So look, that was big for the 2022 team also. We're talking about the 98 team. The 2022 team overachieved largely because of how close they were and how good of a leader Hendon Hooker was specifically. Now it's 4-year, 3-year guys that Josh Heupel signed out of high school. They may not be seniors. They may not be upperclassmen, all of them. Some of them are. But they are certainly players who are embedded with the program, and they're certainly players that are going to generate a lot of goodwill and a lot of respect. So with that in mind, yes, I think this team is player-led. Yes, I also happen to think that it's helping them in a huge way. I think it's a big deal. And with that in mind, I think Tennessee is in great shape going forward. I think Tennessee should be excited, excuse me. So I think the culture will help this team. I do. I think the culture will help this team. I think there is a lot of closeness among all the players on this team. And I want to make that the poll question. Does this Tennessee team seem player led? I'll put it this way: seem more player led than usual. And you guys can vote on it, yes or no. Poll question is up now. Once again, today's tough question is brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
The poll question is up. Does this Tennessee team seem more player-led than usual? 67% of you say yes. 33% of you say no. I am with the 67% of you. I do believe this team is more player-led than usual to the message board. Some people are bringing up a point, and this is a great point by David Speaks. It was 2 seniors and 1 junior. That is true. The leaders are older, though. Bryson Easton, Joshua Joseph, Miles Kitzelman, Aaron Carter, and Deshaun Bishop. Yes, but a couple of those are they're upperclassmen, but they're not seniors, I guess is what I should have said. And that's kind of what stands out. Usually your best leaders are seniors. Even on the 98 team, there was a lot of underclassmen talent. I mean, the heart of that talent was the 97 recruiting class. But the leaders of that team, the guys who took over that team, were Al Wilson, Sean Bryson, Jeff Hall, funny enough, the kicker. Those were the actual leaders. Sean Bryson was the leader of that offense, if you go back and look at it. So that's kind of the big deal there, is the leaders, the guys that you gravitated towards on that team were seniors. They were the seniors, even though they were few and far between to a certain degree. They were the ones that everybody wanted to follow. They were the vocal ones that demanded accountability for everybody. At the same time, the level of leadership on this team is standing out in a positive way. And it's not just one guy. You can have one guy who's a great leader, but it's a few guys that are doing it, and they are all part of it. Because one guy being a great leader, that's Eric Berry on the Lane Kiffin team. Eric Berry could only do so much as one guy. But when you have 3 to 4 that are doing it, that are setting the example for everybody else, and some of them are the elite players, i.e. Arian Carter, who I think is going to be one of the best players on this team, then you are in great shape as a football program. So I think this team being player-led is a great sign for the Vols going into the year. And it may help them steal one of those 3 games that they're going to have to steal if they have a shot at the college football playoff. 10-2 will get them there. But they will have to steal one of those two games. Portions of the program brought to you by Chattanooga Mortgage. Congratulations. Your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. Speaking of Arian Carter, that takes us to our next topic. And it's going to be bank on it. Arian Carter and Jamal McCoy are both on new awards preseason watch list. Arian Carter is on the Butkus Award preseason watch list for the best linebacker, I believe. And yes, it's the best linebacker. And Jamal McCoy is on the Jim Thorpe Award preseason watch list for the best defensive back. Now, we spoke yesterday about McCoy being on the Bronco Nagurski Trophy watch list, which is for the best defensive player overall. He's also on the Lot Impact Trophy watch list. McCoy is first-team All-American, first-team All-SEC across multiple sites. Arian Carter is second-team All-SEC by Athlon, third-team All-SEC by the media. Other watch lists that we could talk about, Josh Heupel, by the way, is on the Dot Trophy watch list. Bryson Eason is an All-State AFCA Good Works nominee. Other players receiving SEC recognition at this moment by different various sources. Deshaun Bishop from Athlon, fourth team. Boo Carter, third team by the media, fourth team by Athlon. Bryson Eason, I already mentioned him, he's third team by Athlon. Ricky Gibson, the third team by Athlon. Lance Hurd, fourth team by Athlon. Joshua Joseph, second team by Athlon. Miles Kitzelman, fourth team by Athlon. And Jackson Ross, fourth team by Athlon. But this specifically goes to Arian Carter and Jamal McCoy, as it's looking again more like Tennessee's defense will be better than last year because they keep getting guys on preseason watch lists, and that's a good sign for them. However, as we know, Jamal McCoy is not going to be healthy to start the year. And it's still standing out that Jamal McCoy is not going to be healthy fully to start the year. So I'm going to close out this poll question. Does this Tennessee team seem more player-led than usual? 88% say yes, 12% say no. I'm going to close that one out. And I'm going to say, who is more likely to receive postseason recognition? And that question is going to be with two, or I'm going to say which defender. And the choices will be Jamal McCoy and Arian Carter. And I'm going to say bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better. Bank on it. Jamal McCoy will be the better NFL player than Arian Carter. Arian Carter is more likely to achieve postseason recognition this year than Jamal McCoy. Bank on it.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
All right, the poll question is up. Who is more likely to receive postseason recognition, Arian Carter or Jamal McCoy? 70% are saying Arian Carter. Only 30% are saying Jamal McCoy. I fully agree with the 70%. A part of me doesn't even think it's close. Look, I think Arian Carter, while I said Jamal McCoy will be a better NFL player, to be fair to Arian Carter on that doesn't mean Carter won't be great in the NFL. I think he has a ton of NFL talent. Okay. I just think Jamal McCoy is a rare specimen who can maybe be McCoy Island in the NFL. Now, taking that into account, when you look at the way the two are, Arian Carter is one of the most raw, talented linebackers Tennessee's had, arguably the most since Kevin Burnett, and could be better than Kevin Burnett. Two things work in his favor this year that should make him significantly better. One, Arian Carter was still somewhat raw last year and had to develop playing in coverage. There's no developing this year. He doesn't have to play in coverage. I mean, he should know how to play in coverage now, and I think he will. So he's more of a complete linebacker himself. Two, more importantly, he has more help. Aaron Carter struggled. It was okay timing, but he had Keenan Peely the first half of last year, which is fine because Peely's a veteran, but Peely was coming back from an injury. Then Peely got hurt and Jeremiah Thielander had to come in. And Thielander, while was a developing linebacker and was going to be a solid linebacker for Tennessee, was not ready to start last year. So Aaron Carter had to cover for a lot more. This year, Thielander should be full go, able to handle that position, all the things that are necessary with the position of middle linebacker. And Aaron Carter's a weak side linebacker should be elite. So having more freedom to play with a better supporting cast, because his supporting cast right now is healthy and experienced, and himself developing should help a lot. What could hurt him, by the way, funny enough, is Jamal McCoy not being in the backfield to help him out a lot, or James Pierce not having James Pierce to bring pressure on the edge. If they don't have a good edge rusher to replace James Pierce, I think they will with Jordan Ross. But if they don't have a good edge rusher to replace James Pierce, Aaron Carter's job will be harder. And on the back end, if Jamal McCoy's not full go, Aaron Carter's job will be harder, so he could look worse. At the same time, if Jamal McCoy's not full go, well, then Jamal McCoy's not going to win any postseason recognition. So when you take that into account, I think it's very obvious that Aaron Carter is much more likely to win the Butkus Award than Jamal McCoy is to win the Thorpe Award or the Nagurski Trophy Watch List, which is for the best defender in the nation. Now, if Jamal McCoy gets back to fully 100% by October, I mean, he could be incredible, and he will probably have a better strong finish to the season, and that will be huge for Tennessee as they go visit Florida and Alabama, and they want to try to steal one of those games. I just think the problem is he's not going to be fully healthy in September, and I think Tennessee's best chance at a win when fully healthy this year was against Georgia. If they're going to go, like I said, to get to the college football playoff, the goal is 10-2. That means they have to run the table against all the teams they're supposed to beat and steal one between Georgia at home and at Florida and at Alabama. I think the most likely and the best chance game for them to steal of those three is Georgia at home. One, because it's at home, and two, it was because it was in early September, while Georgia has a quarterback question and they have some youth that they got to develop on their own. At the same time, it being in September means Jamal McCoy won't be ready, I don't think, which is a very, very bad break for the Vols when you really think about it. So taking all that into account, Tennessee could have some trouble, but I think Aaron Carter, I'm not just seeing all SEC potential or Butkus Award potential. I'm seeing, well, he would win the Butkus Award if he was this, but I'm seeing All-American potential from Aaron Carter this year. The last All-American linebacker for Tennessee, I'm looking it up now, was Kevin Burnett, the last real standout linebacker for Tennessee. They've had a few. They haven't really had any in the Heupel era, but they did have Jalen Reeves-Maben. They did have Kurt Magid for a minute. I respected Daniel Batuli when he played under the Jeremy Pruitt era. I really did. They had Gerard Mayo was an elite player. Obviously, one of the greatest players in Tennessee football history. Arguably the greatest Tennessee football player in history was an All-American, and Al Wilson. And Al Wilson played next to Raynoch Thompson, who was an All-American the next year. It does stand out that this Tennessee football team is player-led, and one of their strengths is linebackers. That's very similar to the 1998 national title team, too. And that team was also bringing in a new quarterback, opened the year against Syracuse, and in their last outing, fell to the eventual national champions in the postseason game 42-17. Just saying, all the parallels there are pretty intriguing. But I do think that I do think that Aaron Carter will be more likely to win the Butkus Award than Jamal McCoy is to win the Thorpe Award. Portions of the program are brought to you by the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection of strict standards. Hemp House, chatwith2ts.com, hemphousechatwith2ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. When we come back, we're going to talk about what was going on with Boo Carter at practice, and that will be what the H. Stick with us, 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com.
Hello, ma'am. I'm here to look at that plumbing problem.
Oh boy. Yep. You're gonna need a whole new sink.
If this toilet is no good, you're gonna need a new one ASAP. You are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at nfc1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Boo Carter was back at practice on Wednesday as Tennessee kicked off fall camp. I'm going to recap the whole Boo Carter story real quick before I tell you what was going on, but it's going to be what the H. Boo Carter, as we know, flirted with the transfer portal after his freshman season last year. Then said he was staying when nobody even knew he was in the portal because he wasn't. And the reports were he was negotiating more playing time on offense because he wanted to play both sides of the ball, even though he was projected to be Tennessee's star. He then played both sides of the ball in spring practice, got quite a few looks in the receiver room. Looks like he would alternate with Braylon Staley in the slot. This seems like one of the big reasons Squirrel White entered the transfer portal. Then everything seemed hunky-dory. The Nico Imaliava situation happened. Boo Carter even spoke on that and said the team felt abandoned. We didn't know anything until about 2 weeks ago. An agent company, Ace Bailey's agent, the NBA player who tried to strong-arm his way out of going to Utah before he settled in the state of Utah. His agent posted on Instagram that he had signed Boo Carter. Again, we didn't think anything of it. Okay, Boo Carter's a new agent, so what? Then reports come last week after SEC Media Days that Boo Carter had missed a lot of team meetings, and it was uncertain whether or not he would be back on the football team, and his agent ghosted him. And his agent said, his original agent had said that he had been ghosted. That's where we find out about the new agent company. We were all wondering, is he going to be back on the team? Is he going to be back at practice? We felt he was trying to strong-arm his way or negotiate with Tennessee about something. The reports even then were that it had nothing to do with NIL, which leads us to believe he even wanted a larger role on offense. Well, Josh Heupel revealed on Tuesday that he was with the team, but there were things he would have to do to earn his way back onto the field based on what the leadership council, the player-led team that we talked about earlier, the player leaders wanted him to do. More evidence of this team being player-led. So how did that all unfold at practice? Well, Boo Carter was involved. He warmed up with the team, but he did not have a helmet on. And after the team stretched, he went to the side while the rest of the defensive backs were going through drills. And when the team went outside to continue that session, he stayed inside and had to do the solo work. What the H? That's a weird one. I got to be honest. What solo, like, if Boo Carter's going to work his way back onto the field with the team, don't you think to a certain degree that you would want him working on defensive back drills, particularly if he had been missing all-season workouts and all of those things? I get you're trying to set a standard and send a message, but could this message hurt him on the field? It seems like there's a bit of an effort to, and I want to point out, I don't necessarily think this is wrong, but it seems like there is a bit of an effort to humiliate Boo Carter over that situation and what happened, which maybe that's what you need to do. Maybe that's what you have to do. And it's very possible that Boo Carter does have to, they're trying to make a point that, no, what you did was not okay. We still don't have the full details over what Boo Carter did, to be fair. But him not taking part in the regular DB drills is kind of interesting. And I'm going to set that up as a poll question because I'm going to ask you guys, should Boo Carter, how about this? Do you have an issue with Boo Carter being forced to practice solo and not taking part in DB drills? And say, yes, earn his way back. Or we'll say, yes, he must earn his way back. Or how about this? Yes, he needs to be ready, or no, he must earn his way back. How about that? So here's the poll question. Do you have an issue with Boo Carter being forced to practice solo and not taking part in DB drills? Yes, he needs to be ready. Or I'll say it this way because that's a little bit confusing. Do you support Boo Carter being forced to practice solo and not taking part in DB drills? And we'll say, no, he needs to be ready, or yes, he must earn his way back. That's going to be the question. I'm sorry, guys. That was a little bit tricky, but that's how we're going to frame it. Do you support Boo Carter being forced to practice solo and not taking part in DB drills? Yes, he must earn his way back. No, he needs to be ready. You guys go ahead and vote on that. I just wonder if there's other things you could have him do. I think of Coach Carter, who remembers Timo Cruz from Coach Carter, the guy that got kicked off the team and came back and was like, what I got to do to play. And then Coach Carter's like, you got to do all these push-ups that were almost impossible to do. And then there was some heartwarming moment where the rest of the team did it for him to help him get back on the team. How about this with Boo Carter? Couldn't you say you do the workouts with the team during practice because we need you to get ready? And then you got to, I don't know, do some push-ups, sit-ups or something like that off to the side after practice or before. You got to do some extra work to get back on the team. I just don't know if it's a smart idea to have Boo Carter not taking part in the rest of the drills to get himself fully ready for what is coming in the season. You guys can give me your thoughts on that, but I do think that's kind of a big issue and a big concern going forward. You guys give me your thoughts on that. Vote on the poll question. What the H is brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com. RickTerryJewelry.com. Quick message from them.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
All right, the poll question up. Do you support Boo Carter being forced to practice solo and not taking part in DB drills? 20% say no, he needs to be ready. 80% yes, he must earn his way back. I'm with the 20%, guys. I'm with the 20%. I think Boo Carter, while I do agree he needs to earn his way back, I think he should be taking part in the player drills. If you're going to not have him do that, if you're going to have him do that and say he can't take part in DB drills because he's got to earn his way back, you might as well just not let him back on the team. Honestly, don't let him back on the team and do this where he'll be less effective. He's got to get into football rhythm and football shape. And so I think that's kind of one of the issues. Now, Colton brings up a good point. Media is limited. They're doing things for show to show they're disciplining him, but obviously we aren't going to see the full extent. But if he practiced like nothing was wrong, it would be a bad look. I wouldn't even say practice like nothing was wrong. I'd say have an assistant, have an all-field staff member, pay him a little overtime, have him out there at the practice field watching Boo Carter, make sure he does push-ups and, running or whatever before practice, after practice. Don't let him isolate him from the team afterward. Don't let him go out with the team on certain events and things like that. So I'm kind of very big on, I think you need to let Boo Carter back on the team and take part in the practices. But I do think that Boo Carter needs to be doing some extra work outside of the practices to earn his way back on the team. I don't think you separate them from practice, from the team. Now, Daniel brings up he had all season to work with the team next man up. Daniel, I get your point, but if that's the case, just don't let him back on the team. That's where I'm at. If you're not going to let him back on the team, then if you're going to let him back on the team, you got to let him work with the team. And Adam's right. I expected them to make Boo do more to make up, not sit baby in the corner. That's what I thought. It looked like they were having Boo Carter sit in timeout, honestly, as opposed to working with the team. And I don't think that's the way. I don't care about humiliating him. I don't think that's the way to get him ready for the season if you're going to actually have him play. And that's kind of where I land on this. Portions of the program are brought to you by HoundDogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. HDKnoxville.com, HDKnoxville.com. When we come back, we're going to talk about Peyton Manning. He has opened up about his Heisman Trophy loss. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook sports.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Hello, ma'am. I'm here to look at that plumbing problem. Oh boy. Yep. You're gonna need a whole new sink.
If this toilet is no good, you're gonna need a new one ASAP. You are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn on your notifications. Tell a friend. We now move on to Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning spoke with Chris Collinsworth of Pro Football Focus in an interview that dropped earlier this week and discussed a lot of things, including his experience playing quarterback, Archie Manning, his family, the state of the NFL today, and everything in between. Most of his college experience wasn't really touched on, funny enough. But there was one big thing that they addressed, and it was actually Peyton Manning's experience losing the Heisman Trophy. And for those who don't remember, it was the most loaded Heisman class of all time. It was Peyton Manning, Randy Moss, Chad Pennington, Charles Woodson. It was an insane class. Peyton Manning finished second to Charles Woodson. He was the season-long favorite, led his team to the SEC title, and posted better numbers than even Danny Warfel did the year before when Danny Warfel won the Heisman, and many other quarterbacks who had won the Heisman. But the loss to Florida that year was held against him, and as a result, Michigan received defensive back Charles Woodson won it for being a two-way player on an undefeated team. Now that whole being undefeated thing, losing to your rival, didn't hurt Danny Warfel when Florida lost to Florida State the year before. Didn't hurt Eddie George when Ohio State lost to Michigan in 95. So it's weird that it hurt Peyton Manning, but hey, that's what happened. Many people to this day, particularly in Knoxville, are still outraged about that. Well, Peyton Manning has given his thoughts on it, and we're going to play a little bit of Four Downs, and it's brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Let's get rolling. First down. Peyton Manning touted Charles Woodson as a player, to his credit. He said, quote, "I was up for the Heisman Trophy, and Charles Woodson won it. An incredible player." The ironic thing about Peyton Manning and Charles Woodson is their careers are so inextricably tied together. I don't think people realize. Charles Woodson was teammates with Tom Brady, who became Peyton's NFL rival. Charles Woodson and Peyton Manning were in the same NFL draft, the 98 draft. Charles Woodson and Peyton Manning retired after the same year, 2015. Charles Woodson and Peyton Manning both played for two teams. Peyton, Denver and Indy. Charles Woodson, Oakland and Green Bay. Charles Woodson and Peyton Manning were in the same Hall of Fame class. While Peyton Manning has 5 MVPs, Charles Woodson did win Defensive Player of the Year in 2009. They're both on the 2000s All-Decade team. They're inextricably linked together, and I do think there is a level of appreciation they now have for each other. But they are both Super Bowl champions. Peyton's got 2, Charles Woodson has 1 to make up for Charles Woodson winning a national title in college. While they are inextricably linked together, I think there is a level of respect they have for each other, and that really stood out. By the way, that was first down from Coop. Cooper Mays asked you all to hit like and subscribe, and that was Coop bringing you first down. Now, Cooper Mays brings you second down. Peyton Manning said he didn't really like the experience in New York, going to New York for the Heisman ceremony. Here's his exact quote. He says, quote, "But I guess it wasn't the best experience in New York. Being up there and having a camera on your face, and it's sort of this live reality TV show kind of filming your disappointment." Now, I never thought about it that way, and, Peyton tried to be as impressed and as classy as he possibly could for Charles Woodson. I do think that Peyton Manning, I never thought about that. For those who don't remember, he was actually on David Letterman earlier in the week, and he basically said that he's not nervous at all about the Heisman ceremony because he said, quote, "I'm kind of anxious to get it over with." He did seem like he was kind of tired of the whole Heisman hype, and one of the things that hurt him was the season-long Heisman hype. That doesn't mean he didn't want the award, but it felt that the season-long Heisman hype really kind of got to him, and to have all that hype and then have to go to New York and all the cameras are on you and you have to answer the questions from David Letterman and all those people, and then it turns out that you don't win the Heisman. Yes, I do think that at that point, Peyton Manning probably was just a massive gut punch. So that's not going to be a positive feeling in New York. It's not, on a much more extreme scale. It's like how Lil Wayne doesn't like performing in New York, funny enough. I don't know if you guys know this. Lil Wayne doesn't like performing in New York. He doesn't like going there. Well, he spent 11 months at Rikers Island. So that's his experience being in New York. Experiences do matter to a certain degree. And I think Peyton Manning has that experience, and it just didn't sit well with him. He never really wanted to play in New York, funny enough. For those who don't remember, Peyton Manning, I firmly believe, came back for a senior year because he didn't want to get drafted by the Jets, because his father didn't want his kids to get drafted by incompetent franchises because of what happened to him when he was drafted by one of the New Orleans Saints. That's why Eli strong-armed his way away from the Chargers. Tennessee Center Cooper Mays here. Third down. Manning says that he wanted to win the Heisman for Tennessee. He says, quote, "And the reason I was disappointed, I really wanted to win it for the University of Tennessee. They've never had one. Tennessee's had 4 runner-up finishes, never won one, so that was kind of my disappointment." That is true. They've had 4 runner-ups. Hank Lorcella in 1951, Johnny Majors in 1956, Heath Schuler in 1993, Peyton Manning in 1997. Ironically, Gene McKeever would have won the Heisman in 1929 had it existed, but it did not exist that year. So that's another bad break for Tennessee. I think we all know about the different Heisman winners those years. Hank Lorcella, the 1951 Heisman winner, was By the way, there's like superlatives for all of these too, by the way. And that's the interesting thing. Because the 1951 Heisman Trophy winner was Dick Kazmaier. And as far as I'm aware, he's the last Ivy League Heisman Trophy winner. Dick Kazmaier is the last Ivy League Heisman Trophy winner. He won it in 1951 over Hank Larcella. In 1956, Paul Hornung was the only defensive player to win the Heisman Trophy. Was the only player on a losing team to win the Heisman Trophy ever. Is the only player on a losing team ever to win the Heisman Trophy. And he won over Johnny Majors. And then in 97, Charles Woodson became the only defensive player to win the Heisman Trophy. He won it over Peyton Manning. Of course, now Travis Hunter is a two-way player who won the Heisman too, but was actually a defensive and full-time offensive player. Charles Woodson played sparingly. But I do believe that's true for Peyton. I think Peyton wanted to do it for Tennessee. I think that did stick in his crawl. We know Peyton loves Tennessee, so that probably does stand out to him. 4 Downs is brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. 4th Down coming up next.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super Savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 Volume 4 dealer. Employee pricing is here. You pay what we pay on all new Ford models. Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
All SEC Center Cooper Mays here. 4th Down. Sorry, I'm just trying to do the whole thing that Dave does with the board because I don't have the board. 4th Down. Did this fuel Peyton Manning's career? Absolutely it did. Absolutely it did. And we have evidence of that because of how Peyton tried to really strong arm his way to make sure he got drafted by Indianapolis. We know he did not want to get drafted by the Chargers. We already knew that, but Peyton tells a story with Collinsworth, and he says, quote, I went and visited the Colts, for a little health combine recheck about 3 weeks before the draft. I just kind of said, hey, listen, I want to come here. I really think there's a good thing going here, but I'm just not into playing a lot of games. And I'm not going up to New York again and having this sort of gotcha moment and y'all take somebody else. If you're not going to take me, I'd just like to know that in advance. I said, if you do take me, I promise you will win. If you don't take me, I'm going to kick your you-know-what for the next 15 years. I did know he actually said that. And then he said, it was just kind of how it felt at the time. And supposedly that's when Napoleon said, I think we're going to take him. That's what kind of convinced him that this is our guy. I didn't plan that. It wasn't scripted, but I guess they liked that sort of bold statement, and maybe that's why they drafted me. I knew about Peyton Manning saying that. And that kind of stands out to me about Peyton Manning. He likes certainty. He loves certainty. That's probably why he didn't like going to New York. So he didn't like going to New York and then not winning it. He probably didn't like the idea of working out with teams that weren't going to draft him. He doesn't like wasting time. I do think it fueled his career. I do think it fueled his career. Philip Fulmer said on a Sports Century about Peyton Manning that came out over 20 years ago now that he doesn't think the Heisman loss was intended to be a slight to Peyton Manning, but that Peyton Manning took it that way. But, and that he thinks Peyton Manning took it that way. But he also says that he thinks it continues to motivate him to this day. And I think that was in 2004. And I think it did. I think it motivated him for his whole career. I think it had a huge impact on him having the success he had. It allowed him to absorb disappointment in a way that he wasn't used to. Peyton Manning was good at absorbing disappointment. You know, he had to rally the team. For those who don't remember, after Tennessee lost to Florida for a 5th straight year in 97, that was brutal and a gut punch for Peyton Manning and a lot of those other seniors. And it was a lot to rally the team to still want to continue to play the rest of the way. And they did. And then they won the SEC title because he re-rallied the team. So that really stands out. I think Peyton could absorb disappointment. That helped him absorb it. That's why he was able to go 3-13 and be so awful his rookie season, because he knew he was able to absorb it and develop. So I do think losing it actually did help him in the long run. Portions of the program are brought to you by Peak IV Hydration in South Knoxville and Sevierville. Live your life to the fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration. PeakIVHydration.com. Link is in the chat. All right, when we come back, we're going to discuss the college football playoff because more news is out about it surrounding Notre Dame. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook sports.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super Savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 Volume 4 dealer. Employee pricing is here. You pay what we pay on all new Ford models. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare. Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. We close this show out with the college football playoff. According to a new report, Notre Dame has come out against the Big Ten's college football playoff proposal. For those who need a recap, the Big Ten and the SEC are at a standstill. After 2025, the college football playoff in its current format, the contract is up. 2026 on, pretty much the Big Ten and SEC hold all the cards. They're going to determine what the playoff is. The Big Ten wants a system where you have automatic qualifiers per conference. 4 for the Big Ten, maybe 4 for the SEC, 2 for the ACC, 2 for the Big 12, Notre Dame, something like that. The SEC wants to stick with this format and just expand it to 14 or 16 teams, where you take the top 5 conference champions, and then the rest are at-large bids. The reason the Big Ten doesn't want that is because they feel the SEC has an unfair advantage only playing 8 conference games. And if the SEC goes to 9, the Big Ten will be fine with going to the 5+11 model or 5+7 or whatever. That's put them at a massive standstill. Now, Danny Cannell is out here trying to say the Big Ten is trying to have the playoffs settled on the field, and the SEC is trying to settle it by determining who's the best team. That's just ridiculous, because one is trying to have automatic qualifiers for a team. How is that settling who the better team is? That's just ridiculous on its face. At the same time, the crazy part is we now know that many conferences have come out against it, most recently Notre Dame. It's obvious why Notre Dame would be against it, by the way. Notre Dame would have to be the top at-large team outside of the automatic qualifiers to get into the playoff. Now, there'd be fewer at-large teams given the fact that there's so many bids per conference, but that still, by chance, lessens their path. They would love the 5+11 model as an independent because of the fact that it opens more paths. So we're going to play Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. CityHeatandAir.com, CityHeatandAir.com. And we're going to determine each conference what they want and whether or not we're hot on them wanting this or cold on them, whether or not they're smart. So we start with Notre Dame. They want the 5+11 model, the top 5 conference champions. I'm hot on them doing that. That's smart. They are very smart. I think Notre Dame should want to side with the SEC on that front because they are going to want as many at-large bids as possible. The SEC wants the 5+11 model. I'm hot on the SEC wanting that. That's smart. The SEC knows that if you go with the 5+11 model, that there will be more SEC teams get in than if you just do automatic qualifiers per conference, interestingly enough. So I'm hot on that. The Big 12 has reportedly come out against the Big Ten's model. They want a they want the 5+11 model too. Are you guys ready for this? Sit down. I'm cold on that. I'm cold on that if I'm the Big 12. I don't think they're thinking this through. They only had one team get into the playoff last year, okay? They only had one team get into the playoff last year. I think they have a better chance of having more teams in the playoff over 10 years by going with the model that the Big 10 wants, because that would guarantee them 2 playoff slots every single year. I think they have a better chance with that than they do a 5+11 model. I'm going to be honest with you guys. So I'm actually cold on them. I don't think they're being very smart. Moving on to the ACC. They also side with the Big 12. They want the 5+11 model. It could also be 5+7 or 5+9, to be fair. I'm cold on the ACC. I feel a little bit the same way about them as I do the Big 12. Now, to be fair, the ACC had one team. I mean, the Big 12 had one team in it last year, Arizona State. The ACC did have 2 teams last year, Clemson and SMU. They got very lucky to have 2 teams in the playoff, if we're being honest, because that happened because Clemson squeaked out a win over SMU the last week of the season. If SMU wins that game, as they could have, they would have been the only ACC team in the playoff. And Clemson beating SMU kept SMU in, but got Clemson in. I don't think if you do the 5+11 model, I don't think you're going to see the ACC get 2 in every year. I think they have a better chance on doing the Big 10 format. So going back at it, I think Notre Dame is smart for wanting fewer at-large paths. Notre Dame is smart for wanting the 5+11 model. The SEC is smart for wanting the 5+11 model. The Big 12 is not smart for wanting the 5+11 model. And the ACC is not smart for wanting the 5+11 model. Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. City Heat and Air, 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. CityHeatandAir.com. What about the conferences that haven't come out in favor of the 5+11 model? We come to them in a second.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
All right, let's move on. The Big 10, they want the automatic qualifier model. 4 teams per their conference and 4 teams per the SEC. Am I hot or cold on what the Big 10 is wanting? I'm so cold on it. And not because I'm against it for myself as a college football playoff fan. I'm against it from the Big 10's perspective. And for the Big 10, if I'm the Big 10, I'm against this. Let's just look at last year's college football playoff rankings if you were the Big 10. Last year's college football playoff rankings, you had 4 teams get in anyway. Okay, you had Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, Indiana. Indiana didn't even deserve to get in. So you had a team that didn't deserve to get in anyway in the 5+7 model. You go back to 2023, the college football playoff ranking. If that had existed, given the teams that were in the Big 10, that year you would have had Michigan, Washington, Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State. The 5+11 model, you would have had 5 Big 10 teams get into the playoff in 2023. It would have actually been better for them to have this 5+11 model. Why then are they doing this model, or are they pushing for it? They're trying to reduce the number of SEC teams specifically. It's about getting back at the SEC, not helping the Big 10. Because think about this for a minute. In a 5+11, 16-team format, if you do 5+11, and I'm talking top 5 conference champions, last year, you would have had, in that format, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina all get in the playoff. All 5. In the Big Ten's format, you would have had them have to pick between all. You would have had South Carolina eliminated and BYU get in. It would have added a Big 12 team, not a Big 10 team. This is to slight the SEC. And I don't know why they're trying to do that. They got the big TV deal. They have all the money. They have all the advantages now. The idea that they want to stick it to the SEC now when they've out-negotiated the SEC makes no sense. I don't understand it, but that is what they're trying to do. And it really is interesting that they're trying to do that. Now, the best news for the group of 5, that's the last the whole group of 5 as a unit has to get on board with this too. There is absolutely no stake in it for them, but to a certain degree, but I would support the 5+11 model. I would absolutely support the 5+11 model if I were the group of 5, because I think they have a decent chance of getting multiple at-large teams in different times and different seasons. Not always, most of the time they won't, but I think they, unlike the Big 12 or ACC, should support the 5+11 model, because they're going to get one team in every year no matter what. This increases their odds to get 2 teams in every now and then. Last year wouldn't have happened, but I think overall that's the smart move if you are in the group of 5. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, BanksandJones.com. We broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used. East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Thanks you guys all for tuning in today. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn on your notifications. We broadcast live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time with Caleb Calhoun. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.